There we go. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. It's a wonderful morning here in Irvine. Let me actually scoot over a little bit so I'm a little more into the shot. Welcome to our live stream for the Legendary Workshop. My name is Brandy Camel, and I'm joined here today by Associate Game Designer John Yang, and I'm totally blanking on your title. Lead Technical Artist.
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. Lead Technical Artist Julian Love.
Hey everybody.
So how are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Great.
Got your coffee in, ready to talk about legendaries?
Down my coffee, caffeine good.
So, for those of you who weren't aware, at BlizzCon, we did a legendary workshop live on stage on Saturday, I believe, where we took a bunch of ideas from the community and sort of worked with them with some guests that we brought up on stage and picked what we felt worked the best, and we're now at a stage where we're starting to kind of think about that idea more, develop it, and get it into a place where we can put it into the game. The goal of today's stream is that there was a lot that happened on stage we couldn't communicate as well to the audience or to the group watching from home, just because we were sharing time with other portions of the panel, and there was just a lot that goes on that's very difficult to put into that medium. So today we want to fill you in on all of those aspects that maybe didn't get as much time. So to start off, what was your guys' vision for the Legendary Workshop and what you wanted to do with it?
Well, we definitely wanted to continue looking for ways in which to engage with the audience and kind of bring them in, and demonstrate our process and kind of open up, give them an opportunity to interact with us. You know, a lot of our panels at BlizzCon tend to be these sort of one-way pushes of information.
Right.
And so there was a desire to kind of break that up, you know, and have something that's a little bit more back and forth. Then there were some other goals with it, which was, it's kind of felt like it was a good opportunity to try to bring some of the excitement that we feel when we do these kinds of brainstorms here on the Blizzard campuses. They're actually really fun and super exciting, and you get all this good energy and everything. And we thought, well, this might actually be entertaining enough that we could put it on stage and we could kind of open it up that way. And so there was just sort of let's try something new, right, kind of spirit behind the intentions there, and let's just take a crack at it, see what happens, right? Yeah.
And what did it really wind up becoming as in the way that we implemented it?
Well, there were a lot of hurdles that we had to overcome. I think that there's that pure thought of, hey, we should just do this on stage. It'd be a lot of fun. And then you start hitting some roadblocks, which is, well, it has to get done in 45 minutes. It's going to be televised, so there can't be like dead air. It has to keep a certain pace. It has to be engaging. And it's like, all right, well, how do we take what we do here at work and turn that into a live show? And that does kind of cross into the boundary where we start to feel a little bit like game show hosts, and we're not really comfortable with that. We're game developers. This is not what we do, getting up on stage and keeping the audience engaged isn't our forte. So we kind of had to craft our way through how this was going to work. And that sort of led up with, well, maybe what we should do is have half of the panel be the Legendary Workshop and still have a panel going on. And we'll just try it this way, and we can get some people on stage, kind of show the process, and hopefully we can fill in the cracks. And everybody will get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously some information here and there sort of slipped through the cracks, and that's why we're having this today, is to give more insight. So players were actually kind of curious because we had done a previous Build a Legendary with the Community project, and they were wondering why we didn't just pick 10 of the best community ideas and then have them vote on it.
Well, one, we wanted to do something a little bit different than that. We can do those pretty much anytime we want. I think it doesn't take. I mean, it takes a lot of effort behind the scenes, but we wanted something a little bit more special for BlizzCon. But there's also this other notion that we don't really vote as a part of our design process. No good design process has voting, because voting implies that one thing must win and everything else must lose. And now, I don't think we demonstrated this very well in the Legendary Workshop, and I think that's maybe one of the drawbacks to it, and that we can correct today. But But you know, when we see 10 great ideas, we kind of want to do them all. Why vote on them?
Right.
You know, we just want to kind of get all the good ideas and sort of take that stuff and give it to really qualified people and let them translate it. And that's really how our design process works. So we kind of want to get closer, cut a lot closer to the way design actually works here at the offices. And we thought that would be a better demonstration for people.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you talking about that actually also kind of filters ideas ahead of time in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you know, what's the thing is, I think it's very fair to do here's a bunch of ideas, vote on them. You know, I think that's totally cool. But it isn't the way we work, and it does sort of create a filtration. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think our process of gathering ideas and welcoming ideas, the intention there is to not filter, actually. Right. When you say, hey, give me all your ideas, the last thing you really want to do is then tell everybody what those ideas have to be, and then they start thinking about, oh, is my idea good enough? Mm-hmm. It's much better to just give them to us and for us to be super welcoming of them.
So we also had several questions from the community about why we talked about certain ideas on stage, what makes an idea viable and what makes an idea not viable. Can we go ahead and start with what makes an idea viable?
So what we look for in good item ideas, there are two angles to look at it. One is has a really strong fantasy. You know, oftentimes you take an item or a piece of art in the game, you say, wow, that's really cool, and sometimes you can't explain why, but just the feeling that it's cool is a big deal. If we have something that's cool, we'll try to build gameplay off of that. Right. The other side is if an item or an idea has good gameplay. You know, we built a game. You click, you move, you push your buttons. That's a game. You progress, you get items. If we can change up the way or the order you click, or where you click, or where you look, or kind of the order you push your buttons, that's a big deal. So gameplay, I would say, is the main thing we look for in items. Yeah.
Right, but you can approach that from either angle as well. You can either go, we have a really strong aesthetic design we want to chase, or we have a really strong gameplay design we want to chase.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the ideas that came up at BlizzCon that has a really good gameplay, you know, people often suggest ideas that are simple, 2 words, strafe pierces. When I hear that, I immediately think, oh wow, what does that actually mean when strafe pierces? Well, the normal way you play a game with strafe or whirlwind is you kind of just do this, go around the screen, strafe kind of finds a target on its own, you just shoot whatever. If it pierces, that's no longer the correct way to play. You kind of want to move and drag monsters with you so they're all following you, they're all lining up so your shots can pierce. That changes really the way the strafe build works, and those are the kinds of things we look for. They're not really obvious at first glance, but that's what our job is, to find the nuggets.
Okay. Let's go into some of the examples of things that we did hear from you all that fell into these categories of being viable ideas.
Let's see. We got this list up from ideas that came up at BlizzCon. So let me talk about some of them. So caltrops being cast at your cursor. That's also simple. So right now the way caltrops work is you're just moving around, you push the button, it drops at your feet. There's no aiming gameplay. I think you would be surprised how much just making a skill be aim cast can change the way you play your game. Because normally you're running, but the correct way to play is you run this way, and then you throw your mouse in the other direction, cast something that way, and then continue running in the other direction. You know, poison damage slows. That also sounds simple, but when things are slower, they group up better. It's easier to clump them up and CC them. That changes the way monsters move, and you interacting with monsters is the primary way that a game works. Let's see what else. In terms of things that, do you want to talk about some of the things that are cool, Julian?
Yeah. I think we had, there was a really cool idea. Oh yeah, the witch doctor. I think this was really popular at the time. The witch doctor's head explodes, and then like bugs and stuff will come out. Now that doesn't really imply a lot of gameplay. You know, it can be any shape. It culminate in all sorts of different ways, but it definitely kind of gets to the heart of the kit that the witch doctor has, which is he's kind of insane and he's super indirect. He's like the Rube Goldberg, you know, of Diablo heroes. So when you get something that's that kind of wild, it's like, well, we want to chase that down. we don't know how it's going to culminate. If it's maybe we can get some good gameplay behind it, maybe we can't, but it stands out, and it's something that we definitely would want to look at.
Yeah, and like something else that came up is gargantuans split into small gargantuans. Yep. We of course have the tall man's fingers, a ring that makes all your zombie dogs one giant dog. Gargantuans split into 3 little gargantuans. Sounds funny, it sounds cool, it's just comical.
Right.
And if something fits our fancy and we're like, hey, that sounds cool, we should do it, we'll try to find gameplay that makes it work. And a good example is the cat mojo that we showed off at BlizzCon. Honestly, right now we have no idea what it's going to do, but it's cool, it's cute, everybody loves it. We're going to put it into the game somehow. At worst, it's going to be an as transmog item with no power. Who cares? We want it in the game. Back to changing the way you play, though. I want to talk about the power that we decided won. Really, it wasn't a voting process, so many ideas won, but we chose the best one that fit, and one that we could say is the winner. And it's the item that says your damage types rotate through the various elements. So what's cool about that item is, this is the next question, but I'll talk about it a little bit here. What's cool about this item is, what happened in Reaper's Souls is, we divided the game into element types. So you're a cold wizard, or you're a fire wizard, but you're not both. So you can't use Frozen Orb and, let's say, Fire Meteor at the same time. That's a gameplay style that's no longer optimal, and if you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. What this item says is, because it rotates your elemental types, you get double damage during that element. You can now have builds that you couldn't have before, which is great. That's a huge win for us. It's something we lost during the whole elemental thing, which I think is good for the game, but opening up the door for build is something that's amazing. Yeah. And
cool. Well, we can go. I think we've gone through quite a few of those ideas, so we can move on to now that we know what does work. What were some of the ideas that maybe we kind of steered away from, and how do you guys look at those ideas in terms of why is it that they don't necessarily work as well?
Well, I'll start with the gameplay part. Something simple, a simple design value. That Wei Cheng often says as, we don't want to give away power without gameplay. You would not believe how often we get suggestions like, numbers bigger, 1,500,000 million damage every second. It kills the whole screen. That's fun, right? For about 5 seconds until you realize there's no more game. The game is gone. It's all about fighting, surviving, and killing. As soon as you're just killing everything on the screen, that's not really fun. Other things that are power without gameplay is, let's say on crit, you gain a crit buff. What does that actually mean for the way you play? It means you're moving through the game as you normally do, but things are suddenly dying a little bit faster. You haven't pushed your buttons differently. You haven't clicked any differently, and that's not what we look for. Like, the overall arcing philosophy on good item design is change up the way you play. Like, we're making a game, we want to make a different game. By giving you an item that changes the way you play, it's like we made a different game.
Yeah, and I think there's some other stuff. We kind of broke this stuff down into sections. So this is a common one that comes up a lot, which is, can my class just have this other power from another class? Because that other power would be really cool. And I think that a lot of that comes from Diablo 2, where we introduced some items late in the development of that product, where paladins and other classes could suddenly teleport like a wizard, and so there's fond remembrances of that. But we kind of have some design rules that we like to follow that are really good for the game. And this one is called concentrated coolness. What concentrated coolness says is that classes keep their coolness when we don't let them steal things from other classes. So any of those ideas where I get like a belt and as a wizard and suddenly I can whirlwind, or as a barbarian I get to teleport, all those kinds of things take these signature ideas from one class and they let another class just sort of rip them off. And then what happens over time is all of the classes become kind of diluted. And we worked really hard at developing the game over the years so that all these classes would kind of be pulled apart and be separate. And so as soon as we start borrowing from one another like that, we start to erode all of that effort. So all those are always going to be a no-no for us.
Right. There was another idea that came up, the offensive potions. I think you touched on it a little bit.
We actually talked about that at BlizzCon, but breaking the intended use of items as important as potions is something we generally don't try not to do. Defensive skills should generally be used defensively. Go figure. When you need it, you push your shield wall anytime you need it. When you need health, you push your health potion. If a health potion instead said, kill everything on the screen, cool. That would change the way you use potions, but then you suddenly lose the ability to heal, which is a vital part of the whole gameplay flow, of the healing, taking damage cycle. And breaking intended use is something we try hard not to do.
Yeah, there's another one that came up. A couple ideas here. One was chance on hit. You get a monster skill. Another one is like Falling Sword would resurrect enemies as allies and things like that. So that gets into an area about gameplay confusion, right? All of the monster skills have been visually architected in such a way that they're clear to the player that they're not your skills or another player's skills. It's important that you know what can kill you. So as soon as we start trading those visuals, and we say, all right, now a Crusader can have Diablo's skills or whatever. Like when it does erode, Diablo is awesome, concentrated coolness, but the other one is that it becomes really confusing. Like which one of those giant pits of fire on the ground is friendly and which one of those things is super dangerous, you can't tell anymore. So anytime we want to kind of cross those visual boundaries, it's pretty much a dead deal.
Let's see. I'll go through some of the other miscellaneous ideas that came at BlizzCon. These are pretty much everything that came up at BlizzCon. Something we didn't talk about at BlizzCon is me and Julie and I spent an hour and a half before the panel going through pages. It was like 15, 20 pages
I remember you guys.
Of small fun idea. Us two and Roger, one of our gameplay programmers. And we whittled that down to something like 30. And then we ended up putting 10 on the board, and the people on stage, the guest designers, gave us a lot of, probably 20 or 30 other great ideas. And here are some of them. So let's see. Something simple like Energy Twister's damage area is larger. So Energy Twister is a very interesting skill. It's incredibly hard to aim. It's incredibly random, and that's built in. That's something we want to not change. It's part of the difficulty and payout in using the skill. But increasing the damage area. So we've got a couple sets. We got a set for the wizard in two? Yeah, patch 2.2. Slow time set. Slow time area does damage. Things inside of it take more damage from all the wizard skills. So what a bigger Energy Twister does is, Energy Twister is incredibly hard to aim unless you're using Wicked Wind. The Energy Twister is going to move out of slow time, causing it to deal significantly less damage. If the area is bigger, it lives longer inside. Additionally, it synergizes with the item that vortexes enemies in. It's some Wizard Bracer, Ransor's Folly. That item will synergize with this larger area. It'll pull in more enemies, and it creates this like giant tornado item set build, which is, you normally think Seismic Slime times area. I don't know, Cluster Arrow has 2 times area. That doesn't really do much, but for very certain skills, it actually works. And it really depends on what exact skill it is for. The double damage area idea would not be interesting for every skill, I think.
Knockback on Energy Twister is another one.
Yeah,
kind of.
It's kind of different. The knockback idea we changed. We morphed actually into Ransor's Folly. It vortexes things in. We thought that what the idea is, when you cast Energy Twister, you knock things away from you, and simultaneously is a damage skill, but also CC, keep things away. But we actually changed the implementation to, you cast Energy Twister over there, it vortexes within its radius, it finds the thing that's closest to you and pulls it. So functionally it still knocks back from you, but it pulls instead, but it pulls into the damage area of the Energy Twister instead of out of it, which I think players will be happier with.
Especially, as you said, Energy Twister is very difficult to aim, so
Extremely.
having it assist you in that aiming in a way.
Yeah. Having an item that makes it easier is okay. What else do you think?
So we had Barb pulls a dead body from the ground as a weapon. actually sounds super awesome. And I think this is one of those. Well, there's something there. It's just that what does it really mean? I think this is like, it's an idea that's kind of absent of gameplay, but it also implies having a whole giant set of animations and things made to support it. And I think that's really the problem with the idea. Isn't that there isn't some coolness in there, but it's kind of hard to see what the gameplay would be. But the bigger problem is, from a production standpoint, it's going to take us a very long time to produce. And so it's probably a better item, a better idea for a skill than it is for a legendary, because of the amount of cost that it would take to implement it.
Right. It's not as practical as designing 5 legendaries in the stead of the one that it would take.
For the cost of that one idea, we probably literally could have done 10 or 12 other legendary ideas, and that's just a better decision for the game and the community at large.
Yeah. Fun. If we're talking about production costs, a funny idea during a previous stream that we still joke about to this day is, I think we were on stream and someone gave the suggestion, which we read out. It was chance on hit to summon a portal to level 2 Durance of Hate.
Oh, right.
It's like, hey, chance on hit, summon another game. And that's, it sounds cool because you're like, yeah, Durance of Hate, kill Mephisto, that's awesome. But, we're just not going to make an entire level in a new game out of an item.
A single legendary.
Yeah.
Right.
It's cool for a reason, because it's this much work.
So there's certain level of practicality that we have to look at as well when we're determining.
Absolutely. It's about getting the most bang for your buck. And our buck is work.
Let's see.
All right, so then I think we had one last idea there to cover in this section, which was all 4 players come together and destroy the world.
Sounds cool. Not much gameplay there. All the 4-player things, the multiplayer things we've done is things that support multiplayer. Like Unity Ring is supposed to be that. Didn't really fulfill its goal, but it's there. An item that periodically makes damage, lightning damage, zap between people wearing it. That is probably going to the game sometime soon. The power is made. It hasn't been put in the game yet. We'll see. You want to talk about the last point?
Yeah, and so I think we had 2 other ideas here. One was mirror image casts all of your skills. So your mirror image just casts everything that you've got. And that seems, actually at face value, I think that seems pretty reasonable, right? And then energy link between mirror images was another one. So a couple of thoughts about this. One was that mirror images are already doing a whole lot as it is. And so do they really need to do more? Is one question. But I think the bigger thing here that really kind of killed this idea was mirror images are actually whole wizards that they have the cost to the game from a performance standpoint of an entire wizard on screen. And so they are like 1/4 of the entire game's effects budget is wrapped up in one hero, right? So that's an easy way to think of it. So when we cast mirror images, and we have mirror images, then doing all the things that a wizard can do, what we're really doing is taking our performance budget and just packing it with basically 4 times more stuff than it was intended. And of course, you get 2 wizards in the game that both cast mirror image that are casting everything they've got. I don't think you'll even see anything anymore. Like, 1, because it'll just be covered in effects, but 2, because your frame rate will be about 5 FPS on anything but the most recent highest performance machines.
Right.
So that sometimes what kills an idea isn't that it's got bad gameplay or isn't a cool idea, because both those ideas have gameplay and they are cool. But they're also just completely impractical from a performance standpoint to implement.
Yeah, performance is one of those things that most people don't talk about. I mean, it's not my job to worry about performance per se. Julian's like kind of the lead on that, but it really affects. When it affects you, it'll kill your game. When it doesn't affect you, you're just, hey, let's have an idea for a demon hunter, for demon hunters. What do we want? More sentries, more spenders on the screen. It's that comic. It's like more spenders, more sentries. Game actually performs, but I'm out the window. What happens is, if you take the look at the ball lightning build, which we totally gutted by nerfing the Hell Trapper, what happened is, there was a video posted on it was on Diablo fans, it was on Reddit. It was a top #1 demon hunter. I think he cleared, I want to say like 50 or 49 at the time. But in the video comments he said, "Here's my build. It's ball lightning. It's 5 sentries. It's the ball lightnings live forever. Sorry, live forever. They're slower, which means they live longer." Right. And he talks about how great this build is and infinite invulnerability. Oh, by the way, in this run, I had about 2 minutes server lag. But don't worry about that. That's okay, right? That's just how the game plays. 2 minutes of server lag. No, that's not okay. And then engineers crawled up my butt about it, and they wanted me to nerf it because of reasons, which is totally relevant. There were server crashes. They were just having an awful experience. When someone says, "Hey, I joined a public game," and the game was lagging, I couldn't tell why. My computer slowed down. It's all those ball lightnings on your screen. All those things are of critical importance when they are important. When you don't notice them, you don't notice them. But when they're important, your game is just dead. So I just want to put that out there.
It's definitely something that we have to be aware of that maybe isn't the first thing you might think of from the player perspective.
Honestly, it's the last thing players care about. They either don't care about performance or they say, "Oh, it's dying, fix it." Yeah.
So let's focus now on the power that you guys wound up choosing. I'm making up words today. Choosing at the convention. Out of everything that was submitted, you wound up picking. It was originally submitted as a wizard source that rotates through every elemental type and gives you a big, massive buff when that type is active. So you also mentioned during that you'd like to look at making that a ring instead of a source, so that other classes could use it as well. What made this idea stand above the rest overall?
I'll start. So the idea was pitched to us as a wizard source during the community corner. You can imagine 4 little balls of energy, 1 for each of the wizard's element that rotates. It's very cool. When it's in front, when it lights up, you get this buff. It makes your cold or arcane more powerful. Fantasy, awesome. Rotating source. What that actually meant for the game, big things for opening up elemental diversity. And one of the big reasons we chose it covers all classes. Wizard Source, obviously not usable by all classes. Ring, usable by all classes. Additionally, the good thing about Ring is right now our most powerful item slot. If you think about what Unity and Ring of Royal Grandeur means for the game, for your power, it's a big deal. Which means if we make a ring out of this power idea, we can put some preposterous number on it, like 100, 200, 8,000% damage. Not that high, but by my estimates, I think you could afford to give out, I want to say, in the order of 150% damage for that element when you get it. Probably as high as like 200%. To be honest, we'll see. But the ring being usable by all classes is a big deal, and one of our 2-2 pushes for patch 2.2, to be clear, that we haven't really talked about is that we're really pushing to revamp our old rings. When you look at the item we replaced the energy twister bracers with, it's some ring that makes your ice armor god mode. That idea is because we want to make sure rings are viable. People have often said correctly that Unity, Ring of Royal Grandeur are the only choices for the ring slots. You guys are terrible. We are terrible. We're gonna fix that by making all the other rings that are crappy have good strong powers.
Skullgrasp is a good example of that.
Skullgrasp, the number on it, Skullgrasp is not for 2.1.2 because it's part of it's the Vile Ward to the Whirlwind set that's in patch 2.2. The number on it is something like, I think I put it in at 440-ish weapon damage, but Whirlwind only does 325 base and 400 ruined, which means this basically says more than double your Whirlwind damage. And if you think about what that means is, you've got a ring that says double your damage. It's a big deal. We don't have rings that double your damage. Stone of Jordan is probably on the order of 20-30% on top of the normal stats that you can get on a legendary ring. So we're willing to go big on rings because that's what we have to do to make you take a ring that's not Unity or Ring of Royal Grandeur. Yeah.
So it'll help encourage more competition in that slot.
Yes, competition. And I just want to double down and reiterate on the build diversity thing. I want to make sure people realize that the idea means I, as a barbarian, could take any generator, spender, cooldown skill, medium cooldown skill, or long cooldown skill I want, as long as they're different elements, and create my own build out of it. That is like, if you take all of our skills, generator, spender, cooldown, defensive, summons, whatever, and to look at these in columns, and you slice them up into elements. This skill only has this one rune of this one element, and you slice them up. Right now, you're kind of just getting these horizontal pairings, where you can choose a skill from a certain element of one of each type. This, you're going to get a whole different slice, whole different cross-section of the game, of the build, which is something we lost that we're getting back, which is why we're so excited about it, right? I know Julian is too. He plays this game a lot. You would not believe. So we're really excited about this idea.
Can you tell us when we might be able to expect seeing this item in game?
Well, we pretty much finished up 2.1.2, so it'll be sometime after 2.1.2. Honestly, ETAs and timelines are a really hard thing for anyone to really talk about. We work on the game, we put things in. When we ship patches and things are generally out of our control. That's, to be honest, right? So sometime after 2.
They're in our control. We're Blizzard.
Oh,
we decide.
Yeah. Where's that button that says ship patch down?
Ship it. It's a big red button that says ship it on it.
It's within our control, but it's hard where we are right now to say definitively what patch and on what date. But having said that, there's a desire for us to get it out there as soon as possible. We know that if we do this thing where we go on stage and say, we're going to design a new item and we're going to put it in the game, and it doesn't happen for a whole year, that's not awesome. So I think we can do way, way better than that, and I'm sure we will do way, way better than that.
Some players have been a little bit anxious about the item being put in because we had with Shard of Hate when it first came out. It was very powerful, mostly in part due to a massive bug that was occurring behind the scenes. But shortly after it came out, we kind of took the nerf bat to it, and people are a little anxious about it.
So let me talk about that a little bit. First of all, if you've watched the PTR, the latest patch, the latest patch notes, I don't know if they're posted.
The notes are up now, actually.
They're posted. You'll see that Shard of Hate got a massive unnerfing. So what happened in the history of Diablo is Reaper Soul shipped sometime end of March. 2 weeks later or so, Barbarians were the only class able to do content no one else could. Torment 4. It's crazy talk, right? Torment 3 and 4. That's crazy. How did you do that? Well, Shard of Hate was how you did it. Shard of Hate had a bug which said anytime your offhand attacks, the internal cooldown on the item is reset. The item is intended to say every time you swing with either hand, you get a proc. There are several ways to implement internal cooldowns. The way it was implemented, the internal cooldown got cleared every time you swinged offhand. It's a really tiny nuance of the game. Additionally, because you were whirlwinding with the item, whirlwind is very special in that it's channeled. Channeled skills tick faster, so you're attacking 3 times a second with whirlwind in a normal attack cycle. So this is getting really, really deep and complicated. that means it created a bug where Shard of Hate was doing 3 times more damage than we wanted to. We intended for it to, so we nerfed that. After that, we said, wow, this item might still be a problem. It'll let Barbarians do Torment 3. That's crazy. We can't let them do Torment 3. So let's nerf it some. First, it came out, every attack it procs, then it rolled against proc sailors, which means it was terrible with Whirlwind with low proc sailor. We are sorry. We took that back. We removed the proc sailor component. The fix of the internal cooldown, where it only procs once per swing, is still there. But I think I actually lowered the internal cooldown a bit.
I remember reading that.
I think the internal cooldown is lowered, so to around 0.3 attack divided by attacks per second, which means you can it'll proc a lot more with Whirlwind, is the TLDR. Right. We are sorry, at the time we thought this item was outrageous. In retrospect, we shouldn't have nerfed it. We should have fixed the internal cooldown bug, because that was an unintended bug. Right. But if we could go back in time, we would definitely not have nerfed it, because.
But what does this mean for the future of Shard of Hate?
It means for the future of Shard of Hate is we're unlikely to nerf Shard of Hate again. We don't think that item is gonna be crazy. But for this ring, I mean, honestly, no one can make promises of what what we have to do if the item goes out 10 times stronger than we intended it to be. But we're going to try to be careful and not have to nerf it. The good thing about this item is that the gameplay is good, and that is going to pull a lot of its weight. The gameplay is going to be good. Hopefully that means the power where you can tune easily and it won't have to be nerfed. We're going to try it.
Awesome. So, and yeah, the PTR patch went out last night, I believe, so it's available to play. So if you want to go try out the new Shard of, or the restored Shard of Hate, feel free to log on and give that a try. We had a lot of really cool ideas for the Legendary Workshop, and even after the event, people were making suggestions saying, you know, here's a bunch of other Legendary ideas, or and just brainstorming in general for new ones. So do you think that this is an initiative that we'll do again in the future? And if so, what would we change about it?
Well, it's hard to say where we're sitting right now, like what we're going to do. You know, the next BlizzCon's really far away, and you have to evaluate at that time what we're going to do. But I will probably talk about this in terms of like what are the takeaways that we got from it.
Right.
Like, you know, there was some stuff that worked out really, really well, and then some stuff that could have been better. And that's just sort of the par for the course when you're trying new stuff on.
Right.
So I think the things that worked out really, really well is, one, we did do something different. You know, it wasn't just us up there, you know, blasting away like we usually do. And then getting some people on stage and interacting with them. It also kind of reaffirmed for us the notion that we had when we went into it, which was, you know, these brainstorms, the way that we do this, anybody can participate, and they're effective, and they're fun, and they're exciting. We got that. I think for people who watched the workshop on the day of, there was a moment there where I was supposed to like get the handoff from Josh, you know, and man, the brainstorm was going so good. I completely forgot about that, and they had to kind of like pull me out of it. But that was just kind of a sign that, wow, it went really, really well. We got a huge number of ideas. We got actually the pinnacle of ideas that we wanted, which was an idea that any class could use. Right. That we were like, I don't think that'll happen. Those are so hard to design. Will we get that? And it came up, right? It happened. Yeah. So, you know, when you walk away from an event like that and you have a dozen really good ideas, you've got one really strong one, you've got the people on stage having a great time, and then you see also the outpouring of ideas that we got from our audience, both, you know, leading up to it and afterwards, like that's a lot of goodness. So I think, you know, the spirit of it was really captured in that sense, and that's something that we would want to repeat in everything that we do. Now, what I think could be better about it, you know, I don't think the reflection part really, we didn't really plan it well enough that we had the time that we needed to truly reflect well, which is kind of why we're doing this here.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would want to get that, do a better job with that. And I think the other thing is that, you know what, we were a little worried about how a brainstorm would go. Is that content the actual brainstorm? I know people wanted to hear it, but we weren't sure if that just wasn't going to be super boring. Right. And as it turned out, it wasn't. It was pretty exciting. So I think finding the right kind of event where people can hear and see the whole process is something that is definitely occupying our minds. That's something we want to do better.
You might need to experiment with different mediums and see what works best.
Yeah, getting the community involvement stuff that Julian was talking about was a big deal, but something that I forgot to say at the beginning of this is during this post-mortem that we're talking about, what we're really trying to do is get all community members, all the players on board with our design track, our thoughts on how to make this game better, and how to design interesting legendaries. Like, you know, designers and people work on the game, their job is to make the game better, but we are not better than all the people who play our game collectively. BlizzCon was proof that great ideas can come from anywhere. Great ideas that we haven't thought of, you know, in this long, can come from anywhere. Which is why we want to make sure that when you guys give us good ideas, that you guys are on the right track. You know, we want to hear the ideas that follow our, you know, viability, our gameplay first, no power without gameplay, all the design values that we have for items. Change up the way you play, change the way you click, the order you push your buttons, how often you push them. Those are the things we want. So when you suggest an item to us, you know, think about how that changes the way you play and how that makes the game fun or different for you. If it just says, or if it's a cool idea. If it's cool, we'll try to build gameplay into it. If it's just an awesome idea. But you know, if oftentimes when the suggestion is an item just makes it something a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, that can be weak unless it's in the right place. And I guess that's our job to filter it out and find the nuggets. But we're trying to guide everyone because I know you guys want the game to be better and you guys want it to be fun. This is how we do it. Teamwork.
Sweet. I think that actually covers our big questions that we had from the community. Was there anything that you wanted to touch on before we move into the final portion of our stream today?
Well, maybe I'll just pile on just a little bit to what your last message was,
Yeah.
which is like, you know, I think there was another desire there, which is just sort of expose our thinking, the way we work. And one of the big things there is that we're really welcoming of ideas. It's really hard, I think, when you're interacting with us through the internet necessarily, you know, like it's great here what we get to do today.
Right.
This is a little bit more, you know, dynamic, right? But oftentimes we're not able to interact with our audience in such a dynamic way. Ideas come in and then months later a patch comes out and then you look at that patch and you say, well, hey, did they even listen, right? And it's really difficult to kind of measure whether or not that listening is happening. And one of the things I think that the workshop demonstrated, if I can get that tangle of words out, is the notion that we have that when ideas come, we welcome them. We welcome all ideas. We really do listen to them. It's important to not be judging them at the time that we hear them. And then you take all those ideas and you assign them to somebody who's really an expert at what they do, and you trust them to do good with it.
So it looks like we've started getting questions, and we've got about 20 minutes to go over some of the questions that you guys are asking in chat. So let's start with this first one.
Yeah, these are good questions.
Let's see. I'll go ahead and read it out just so you can. About the winning legendary power. So it looks like a couple of you, DS Burgers and Droth Vader, would like to know more about the ring rotation. Will it cycle through the elemental types available to that class? Sure.
That is absolutely the intention. We want it to rotate through elements that you will actually use. So on a per class basis, it'll use the 4 or 5 that your class uses. The other question is from DS Burgers, what's the ring rotation rate? That's something we've actually talked about. We had a meeting to talk about items, and we talked for probably 20 minutes on this item. We haven't actually come up with a good solution is the real answer. If you think about, we don't want it to be really long. You know, if the elemental rotation rate is like a minute, that probably means outside of greater rifts, you're swapping your whole build, so you're doing triple damage for a minute at a time, which is terrible. So we want it to be something on the low side, you know, 5 to 10 seconds. What we're unsure if the numbers in the 5 to 10 second range mean you're gonna have a generator, a spender, a cooldown, another skill of the 4th element. Like, is the 4th element a damage skill? Is it a movement skill? Do you just not use it? Are you just in no damage boost mode during that time? Also, 10 seconds means you might generate for 3 or 4 out of those 10, but then you're at full resource and you can't use that fire generator. So something lower than 10. The numbers are a big TBD. We're gonna have to play test it a lot more, but I think somewhere in the 5 to 7 to 8 second range. 5 to 8 second range is what I would say.
This is a good question that I don't think we've addressed yet. Why was the Band of Untold Secrets removed?
I think Band of the Untold Secrets was morphed into the item that's called Band of Arlice or something that makes your ice armor better.
I see.
There's 2 ways to add items to the game. 1, make a whole new piece of art and add it into the game. 2 is take an existing item, legendary, that doesn't have a power and add a power to it. The latter is better because that removes 1 bad item up from the pool. All these things about remove all the bad items. We're doing that by taking 1 out and replacing it with a new item that has a cool power, any power. That's why Band of Untold Secrets is removed.
Okay. That question was from Cardredrin, I think is the name. I just want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. So let's see the next one. Baskinator asks, when will a Helltooth set be fixed?
We never make promises because when we do and we miss our date, people will give us crap for it. Hopefully in 212, if not 212 after that. But
212 or do you
sorry,
mean 220?
Did I say 22?
Yeah, I think you mean 22.
I meant 22. If I said 212, I meant 22. In 22, 3 classes, Barbarian, Wizard, and Demon Hunter are getting new sets. The Witch Doctor is not. I really want to work on Wall of Zombies during that time, but we'll see how much time we have, honestly, to work on that. If not, after patch after.
All right. Let's see. Wade Arcade asks, will the winning legendary power rotate randomly or in a set rotation?
That's a good question. Haven't thought about that. We want to give the players control whenever possible. If you can understand the order that the elements are going to rotate in, you can plan your generation, your spending, your cooldown use to match up with that. That, you know, if I had to give you an answer, I would say set rotation. What order it's going to be is TBD. Right. We'll see.
One of those details we still have to kind
of
work on.
That's probably a final detail, actually.
All right. Tim Chen 1017 asks, is buffing weak sets a high priority?
Buffing weak sets for a class that doesn't have any viable builds is our top priority. Hopefully every class has a viable build now. For classes that only have one viable build, we want to put more work into them. Like, let's say Demon Hunter, Monk only have one viable set. That's why in 212 we're making sure, part of the reason we're making sure they're really good. Witch Doctor, you know, has 2 builds. Crusader has several builds, even though they only have 1 main armor set. But they're good. They're happy where they are. 2 choices, you'd be surprised how happy people are with just 2 choices. So buffing weak sets is a priority, but it's not our #1 priority.
Right. It's in the context of who needs more diversity.
You know, the Wall of Zombies set is a great example. Witch Doctors have 2 good sets going on. Wall of Zombies needs some skill work and some set work to make it good. That's why we're more interested in buffing like the other sets for the other classes first.
All right. Let's see. Rectlel asks, can you give us some feedback on the rarest legendaries in the game and how much easier they're going to get now?
We use drop weights to determine rarity of items. The data is all out there, so I can openly talk about it. Some people data mine our spreadsheets, but items drop in the game at a drop weight of 100, 50, or 10 pre-212, which meant the most common legendaries were 10 times as common as the rarest, which are, you know, things like Star Metal and Furnace. We made all those 10s 25s. They're 2.5 times less rare. However, because we keep adding items into the pool, they will, because of that, be slightly more rare. So a little bit less than 2.5 times less rare. And that's because, you know, our philosophy has changed a little bit about making sure you have that item that you want to chase into more of like, we want you to eventually have the build defining items, but we're going to hope that you're going to look for ancient versions or better roll versions or whatever.
I think we answered the question that we were just sent.
Correct.
So, which was, will winning legendary power only cycle through the elemental types available to class? We did say that was the intent, right?
Yeah.
Just to cover that again, make sure that was clear. Let's see, I think we're still waiting on a couple of questions here.
I think, who did someone say earlier? There are some things in Twitch chat that keep coming up.
Let's see. Oh, I've seen that one. That was I'm going to be selfish because I'm curious about this. With Crusader only using a shield, do you think we'll ever see like the Herald of the Zakharum shield that was a very popular item, I believe, in Diablo 2?
I don't remember that item. I barely played Paladin. What did the item do?
You know, cool? I'm actually not sure offhand, but I know that it was something that was very commonly used. I didn't play Paladin either, so.
No, I played Sork and
yeah, I didn't play too much Paladin either.
So
I don't know.
So it really depends on what it did. But that's always an idea we can push over and say, hey, this is what this did, and see whether or not it fits into Diablo 3 in a comfortable way.
For all the questions on when is Season 2 and Patch 212, we've said before that we'll give you at least 30 days notice.
Right.
So something you can think about is Season 2 and patch 2.12, which means also patch 2.12, will not ship until a month from today at the very earliest.
Yeah,
because we will give you notice, because finishing your season, ending your season correctly is something we want you to do.
Yeah.
I think that might be incorrect.
I think there was actually a post on Twitter that I think I retweeted that was built off of something I originally posted. Okay. And it was, just think of it as the season will be ending X plus 30 days from now, where X is the amount we haven't really determined yet. But as soon as we have that figured out, we will be letting you guys know in no uncertain terms. So we did get another question. Hakarb is asking, what is being done about having so many legendaries with no unique affixes? And is there any work being done on making builds less reliant on specific legendaries?
That goes back to the thing I just said, which is we are trying to revamp old legendaries and replace them with new powers. That's 2 wins. It's a new power and a removal of an old item that had no power. That you're gonna get it and you're not gonna be excited about it. Work done on making builds less reliant on specific legendary items. That is actually the game we have. We have a game where your builds are relying on legendary items. That is probably not going to change, because the alternative is you log into the game and you have access to every way to play immediately, which means most of the game is gone for you. Finding items is really fun, and unlocking builds is good. We're on board with that. We're sticking to it.
Yep.
Cool. Master Fu asks, are there any plans to bring Wrath of the Berserker back with a new set with Second Life passive to match the base Perma Champion Crusader?
Honestly, we can make an Akon set out of every class's 2-minute cooldown. We try not to be samey whenever possible. You know, I can make a Vengeance, a Wrath of Berserker set in probably 10 minutes if I have the art for it that just says half cooldown, half resource cost, get some CDR, be in it all the time, you're good to go. We try not to be samey whenever possible. I think we've still got enough good ideas that we don't have to resort to that. I think it would be fun for people regardless, but what people...
I think what's really being asked there is a Second Life passive for barbarians.
Oh, I guess there's 2 questions.
It's kind of 2 questions in a way.
Second Life is tough. We like I said, we try not to be samey whenever possible. When you think about the fantasy of what it means for barbarian to cheat death, he's really like the least cheat deathy guy. He's got no magic. He's kind of just like a mountain earth guy. When he dies, he just kind of dies. We reduced monster damage a lot in this patch. We're gonna see how that plays out. We're gonna try not to give him a cheat death if we can avoid it. But if he needs it to compete in, hardcore or higher, greater risk, we'll totally do it. I don't think barbarians are having trouble competing in the top leaderboards or anything right now.
Gotcha. Let's see. I am going to slaughter this name, so I apologize in advance. Bin Ikea Bennick, do you guys look a lot at the leaderboards when you're discussing ideas, and does that affect your priority on things or the class?
I think leaderboards are a less reflection of overall class happiness than you might think. The top leaderboards are for the most hardcore. The most hardcore are also the most vocal. They are very often easily heard, and we know what they want. And those kind of players will build, like we build a game that's broken or not fun or makes your hand hurt, Monk said. You'll play it and you'll be kind of happy, but you'll be happy that you're at the top of leaderboards. The game may not be fun for the other 90% of players. That's what we really look at. In terms of priority, we don't really. We're not going to say, hey, Monk's at the bottom of the leaderboards, why don't we look at changing the Monk set? We're going to say, hey, the Monk set is causing physical discomfort. Why don't we change that set so it plays better? While we're doing that, we could probably be more generous in buffing the numbers because they're near the bottom leaderboards. We also don't look at the top leaderboard and say, hey, barbarians are doing really well, let's nerf their power. The goal is not to reduce the power level of a barbarian. The goal is to make, like, we have all these design values, right? Like power without gameplay. One of them is co-op friendly. That's actually like one of the 3 pillars that our director set for Diablo. Multiplayer, co-op. and at the end of the day, Raycore is just not a multiplayer friendly set. You're dragging monsters around, and the correct way to play is you zoom through the level. Like when you take 4 barbs and you see a video of them doing it clear, and the way to play for them was everyone go in one different direction. That's not multiplayer. I'm sorry. You have to be on the same screen interacting with each other. You're playing a single player game. Just happen to be in a party. That's something we do not want. Things that aren't multiplayer friendly. Anytime I play barbarian. I play all the classes, but if I have a barbarian, I'm playing with a brandy on a crusader.
Right.
So hey, let's do a greater rift together. I'm over there. You clean up after me. That's not fun. We want you to play together.
So we do look at the leaderboards. It's a secondary or tertiary concern.
Yeah,
right? It's not a primary.
We don't say, "Oh, this class is doing great. We're not going to work on them this patch." That's not how that works.
So it's not necessarily a priority, but it's a piece of a puzzle that maybe isn't as big as the others.
Yeah.
Lori999 asks, are there any plans to buff pets so that the pet witch doctor build is more powerful in greater rifts?
Slowly. I don't think pets are bad right now. We reduced monster damage some more against pets, fix some more bugs. In 2.1.2, that might be not in the patch notes, but I think pets are good. They're just not super high, but we're going to slowly buff them to where they need to be. Yeah.
I believe that's in the patch notes, by the way. It's just
cool.
It's not under the class specifically since it applies to every pet, so it might be easy to miss. Via Tom says, are you guys going to release a Ramaladni's for jewelry? I see this as a very common request.
Ramalandis.
Yeah.
Ramaladin. Ramaladin dong is what we call it. Maybe they don't need one. The weapon slot was because it felt really bad to not have a socket in your weapon. And because the weapon is so important, we wanted to make sure that we gave you an alternative way to get a socket on your weapon. On jewelry, I think it's less required. I guess these days it is still required. We have no plans. We could. It's power creep. I don't think the game needs that specific item right now. So I mean, we've got ancients going in. I think we have plenty of power creep for the foreseeable future.
All right. Tim Chen 1017 asks, can you talk about design philosophy behind ancient items? More diversity or more grinding for endgame?
It is definitely for more grinding for endgame. I think most people have latched on to this by now, but ancient items are not designed for the 90% of players. They're designed for the 10% of players, the streamers, the Paragon 800s, who really don't have anything to play the game for and search for anymore. Right. It's more legs to the end game. I'd say for the casual mid-core player, there is a lot to do. There are 6 classes. If you're not good at 35 on all classes, you've got work to do. You don't need ancient items to change up the way you play. You just need better items so that you can be more powerful and do more things in the game. Yeah, they're definitely for the end game.
Cool. John, Julian, and Brandy, will the new sets introduced at BlizzCon be implemented into the PTR so that we can test them in a test environment?
The new sets will be in the 2.2 PTR, but not 2.1.2 because they're not going to 2.1.2.
So
let me see.
So we should have a PTR for 2.2, and
we absolutely will have
one.
Yes.
To try those out. Let's see. I'm catching up here. Twitch U2 10. Okay. How would you feel about adding a legendary effect that promoted rotating multiple spenders? Most endgame builds run a single spender, and it can feel quite monotone.
Totally. I actually, in my master plan for the ring that rotates through elements, I actually had envisioned 1 generator or 2 generators, like three of generators and spenders. So I could totally see you using two spenders, two different generators if your resource generation isn't up to par. But yeah, different damage areas is really the main thing. I'm thinking a frozen orb and a whatever other skill that has a different damage area to make you aim in a different way. That might be viable. We'll have to see.
All right. The Real Pinkinator asks, any work on adding affixes to daggers? There is no dagger with an affix.
Haven't really thought much about daggers. We add legendary powers to whatever items fit the theme and work on and can be equipped with the classes we want. It just hasn't come up actually.
I meant
maybe that one that does nothing but squeal like a pig actually needs to do something cool.
That one just
sticker.
that was just annoying. Also, daggers have a damage range problem where one of their affix doesn't get as high of a damage range. That's lower on the priority list for me to fix because daggers have no interesting powers. That might be like a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's sort of circular. And I think it's also when we're looking at adding powers, we're looking at adding powers for things multiple classes can use, and daggers are a little bit more narrow in scope.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Smokeron asks, so now that rarer items drop easier, will two-handed flails drop more often for Crusaders?
Yes. All items will be... What? Will two-handed flails drop more often? That specific thing has not changed. It's just the rarest items in the game, like Furnace and Star Metal, will drop higher. I believe I also changed Falcon's Foot from a 10 to 25. Okay. Anything that was a 10 is now a 25. The rarest item in the game is only 4 times as rare as the most common items now.
Alright. Let's see. DS Burgers is up. In D2, you could get a weapon with your name on it through a quest. Is that something we could see in D3?
That sounds cool. We have to find like a hook for it. You know, what would it mean, and what are there, like, is there a quest, is there a system that means you get this item? One cool thing we've often talked about is, you know, for seasonal, what if at the end of a season, you could take one item, put your character's name on it, and it's like the heirloom item that you take into the next season. It gives you like a head start. It makes you want to play season after season. That's something we talked about, but you know, no solid plans on that.
All right. So it's one of many ideas we have floating around. Hakarb asks, with the idea of builds being based on finding specific legendary items and new unique affixes being added each patch, is there any plan on allowing players a way to target a specific legendary outside of Kadala?
The standing answer is still no. We are happy with how much control Kadala gives players for finding specific items at this point. I think the reduction in the rarest items is going to help a lot. So the rarest item that you want is probably the one that has a drop rate of 10. It's most likely that one that you haven't found. It should be 2.5 times as common now. So hopefully that'll help.
Pratipus asks, when the season ends, what will happen to your duplicate legendary gems?
I think everything gets mailed to you.
I believe everything gets mailed to you. You can actually acquire duplicate legendary gems already, even without...
I've got 2 copies of every gem. Most gems at like 40.
I do as well, because I just automatically pick everything up.
Yeah, and then if they're stuck in another guy, you just pick them up. It happens. What are you going to do?
Yeah, so the short answer should be you should get them as well on the regular game. No problem. Let's see.
Quick answer. The passive buffs on the wizard skill bar. That's something we want to do for everybody. We want to remove like passive gameplay. The wizard's current gameplay is 3 buttons, 2 buttons.
Three buttons.
Familiar,
armor, magic
weapon that don't do anything. So it's like they're playing with 3 buttons. It's terrible. They have a generator, a spender, and a teleport. That is bad. We want to fix correctly in the same way that Companion for the Demon Hunter was fixed in Reaper of Souls. That was not a small, simple fix, and at this point, you know, people working on Wizards have other things to do. We're all working on it. It's just a priority list.
All right, looks like we're actually past our time, so we'll answer this last question and then head out, I think. Awesome Possum 11 asks, will there come gems for weapon? There's currently 1 gem. I think he means maybe legendary gems.
Yeah.
Or maybe he means other gems being on par with emeralds.
The green one.
Yeah, I think that's.
I am totally happy to tune gems up to the power level of green gems. The problem with like buffing, like the diamond and a weapon is elite damage. We could make that number 10 times bigger and tune it so it's equal to a green gem, but the problem still remains that at the end of the day, there's no real game there. It's you find a weapon, you put a gem into it, and you're just done. It just says you deal more damage. I think we'd be much more interested in designing weapon-specific legendary gems that go into your weapon and maybe do something different. I don't know.
Because we do have 1 legendary gem now, or at least it's coming in 212.
The twink gem, awesome twink gem.
Yeah. So maybe we'll experiment more with that in the future. Looks like we've got one more that snuck in here, so we'll take care of that one since it was sent over. Timmy X17 asks, are there any changes to the Jade Doctor? I mean, Wormwood might.
No, Wormwood is a big deal. I changed the rune on Haunt that was crappy, didn't actually do anything, into Poison, which opens up the poison diversity. Julian and the Tech Art team added green poison effects. It opened up the Poison Jade Doctor build. Hope that works out well.
All right. Yeah. Cool. I think that actually wraps us up here. So I want to thank, first off, you guys for taking the time out of your busy days to come and join us.
Welcome.
Thank you for organizing.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then thank you, everybody who tuned in and hung out with us today and sent in your awesome questions. And thanks for participating in the Legendary Workshop, too. It was a great, fun event for us as much as it was for you.
Yes.
And we definitely want to continue doing more things that engage you guys in the community and show you behind the scenes what it's like to be in the developer chair for a little bit. So thanks very much for your time. And I think that wraps us up. So have a good one.
Thanks for the entertainment, Twitch chat.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.